What is good, everyone? Welcome to the channel. I'm sure that many of you around the world are glued to the TV regarding the news between Russia and Ukraine, and I of course am really tuned into that as well. But the news I want to talk about for all of you, given this channel's purview, is I want to talk about the new rules that will be going into effect that have been announced by the Japanese ministry regarding quarantine rules, who may enter the country, who may not enter the country. There have been details and updates added to the government's website, which I will provide a link in the description for the video below. But I want to give you an overview for all of you who are waiting to enter Japan or are waiting to get your visa and be able to get into Japan finally. This is the latest updates on that. Now, it's still the case that you are not able to enter if you're just coming here as a tourist. However, if you have a visa, you've already been accepted by a university, or you have a company that's sponsoring your visa, etc., new visa holders will be let into the country. And the changes to the government website and the new information that's come out isn't changing any of that. It's just letting new information be known about how quarantine is going to work for anyone who is entering the country. So again, I don't have everything memorized, so I'm going to read off the details as I took in my notes here. So, basic bullet points of information if you're entering Japan on a work or student visa, or obviously spousal or family visa if you've had one of those newly issued as well. Non-vaccine boosted people, so you have not had a third shot or your booster shot. Non-vaccine boosted people arriving from designated regions, which are regions where COVID-19 is still considered to be spreading. These people will be, or people in this situation will be sent to a quarantine hotel for 3 days, and you will be released from that quarantine pending a negative test on the 3rd day. So if you're coming from a place where COVID is still deemed by the ministry to be spreading rapidly, you will still have to do a 3-day at least quarantine in a hotel. If you test negative on your 3rd day, then you will be released. Second bullet point. If you are vaccine boosted and you are arriving from one of those designated areas where they still consider COVID to be spreading widely or rapidly, if you have a booster, you can quarantine at home in principle for 7 days, but also can be released with a negative test on the 3rd day. So in effect, a 3-day quarantine, except not in a hotel. You are left to your own reconnaissance. You can go to home or private residence, basically. So those first 2 bullet points are if you're coming from a country where COVID is still considered to be spreading rapidly. Okay. Next, non-vaccine boosted people. So again, we're going back to people who have not received the 3rd booster shot. Non-vaccine boosted people arriving from non-designated regions, i.e. regions where COVID-19 is not considered to be spreading widely or rapidly. You will also, in principle, have a 7-day home quarantine that can be shortened to 3 days with a negative test. So basically, even if you're not boosted, if you're coming from one of those non-designated countries, like a safe country, I guess you might call it, you have the same quarantine rules as someone who's boosted, who's arriving from a more dangerous country. So 7-day at-home quarantine, released to freedom if you have a negative test on your 3rd day. If you are vaccine boosted, arriving from a non-designated region or safe country, you will not have to quarantine. So if you are vaccine boosted, and you arrive in Japan from one of those safe countries, you do not have to quarantine. However, you will still have to undergo the usual test before you get on the airplane and test upon arriving in Japan, either at Narita or whatever airport you're arriving at. You will still have to, this is all based upon having a negative test in both places. People who test positive or are close contacts with an infected person will have to do that 7-day quarantine. Again, negative test on the 3rd day, you're able to get out. So again, just to reiterate, basically the rules are split into 2 parts or 2 categories. Are you coming from a designated, more dangerous COVID is spreading country, or are you from a non-designated, more safe COVID is not spreading country? And do you have that vaccine booster shot or not? People who are quarantined at home may use public transportation to get to their place of quarantine as long as they do so within 24 hours of the negative PCR test upon arriving in Japan. So if you arrive at the airport, you have a negative test, you can take public transport to your quarantine home. One shot, for those of you who are concerned about the designation of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, one shot of Johnson & Johnson vaccine will be recognized the same as 2 shots of Pfizer, Moderna, or AstraZeneca. The only recognized booster vaccines, those 3rd shots, are Pfizer and Moderna. So if you fall into that boosted category with Pfizer and Moderna, those count. If you are not boosted, or you've been boosted with something else, that is not considered having had your 3rd booster shot. Now, many of you are probably wondering at this point, okay, what are the designated countries? Like, what are the countries that are safe countries so we can have a lighter quarantine, not have to go to a hotel? Or which are the more dangerous designated countries where COVID is spreading rapidly? Well, there is a list of countries. Again, I will put the full list or the link to the full list in the description below. That will be an official government website. Unfortunately, at this point, it isn't only in Japanese. So I guess if you don't know Japanese, you can do a Google Translate or something of that site. But a quick rundown. The countries where COVID is still considering to be spreading widely or rapidly, and you would have to quarantine for 3 days in a hotel. Those are Italy, Uzbekistan, England, Egypt, Sweden, Denmark, Germany, Nepal, Norway, Pakistan, and France. Again, those are the countries, if you're coming from any of those places, Italy, Uzbekistan, England, etc., you will still potentially have to quarantine at a hotel if you don't have that 3rd booster shot. The following countries are considered non-designated countries where if you arrive, you should be able to quarantine at home, and especially if you have that 3rd booster shot. The following countries are the non-designated or safety countries where if you come from here, you can quarantine at home as long as you don't have a positive test or have a close contact who is tested positive. If you come from Iceland, Ireland, Argentina, Estonia, Australia, Austria, Holland, Cyprus, Greece, Georgia, Spain, Slovakia, Slovenia, Thailand, Czech Republic, Chile, Hungary, Fiji, Philippines, Brazil, America, Belgium, Portugal, Lithuania, Romania. Actually, this is not a full list of countries. These are just a short list. Again, the full list of countries that are considered safety countries are below. I failed to mention Canada. Some of you might be in Canada. Canada is a designated country, i.e. not safe considered yet. Of course, this list is highly subject to change. It's probably going to change and countries will be added or left off the list. So if you're coming from any country in the world, I would basically, up until the time you get on the plane, keep abreast of all of the latest news from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs website. Basically keep checking if the country you're coming from is a designated dangerous country or non-designated safety country. That is probably going to change and be fluid over time. As I read the list of countries, some of them don't even really make sense to me. Some of the countries I'd named were like, really? Is it really safe there now? And other countries like, I had an impression that was a pretty safe country. Why is it designated as not safe? I don't know how they're deciding which country warrants more strict rules and which country warrants more relaxed rules. I don't know how they're making that decision. And I'm sorry that I can't provide that information. But I once again want to reiterate, wherever in the world you're coming from, keep checking the government website up until you board the plane to see what your situation might be, because it might change. It might even change while you're in the air. Who knows? This has obviously been a long, ongoing situation where we've had to be flexible and fluent. I really feel for all of you who have waited for so long to enter the country and were not able to. Now, at least slowly but surely, it's opening up for all of you visa holders and you'll be able to get in. Those of you who are in line to try to get visas, it's going to be a wait because the number of entrants to Japan is still pretty low. It's not a very large number of people being let in on a daily basis. And last I heard, there was something like 400,000 people awaiting some kind of entrance to Japan on either a student or work visa or family visa of some sort. That's a lot of people waiting to get in. And I wish you the best of luck in your journey to Japan and that you can get here sooner rather than later. Now, I do want to quick say that this channel is all about doing videos about Japan, society, life, and culture. I put out a new video every single Friday about that topic in addition to these border update videos. In fact, the border update videos is definitely a secondary part of this channel. Of course, hit like and subscribe for more updates about the border, but I really encourage you to go check out my other content. If you're intent on living and spending time in Japan, it's a great way to learn a few things from someone who's been living in Japan for 18 years now. Also, I'm going to be starting an exclusive announcement right here. I'm going to be starting a podcast. It'll be an audio-only format, and I'm going to be interviewing on each podcast a long-term or short-term resident of Japan who comes from many different countries around the world. I'm going to try to get a wide variety of guests in terms of their background, their gender, their religion, how long they've been in Japan, their country of origin, their ethnicity, etc. Basically, I'm going to try to talk to as wide a variety of people as possible to learn their Japan journey story. The podcast is going to be called Journal of Japan Journeys and will be available on every major podcast platform. I will be launching my first episode within the next couple of weeks, and I encourage you to look for that as well. Thank you very, very much for watching this video. I hope it is useful for those of you who come here for these updates, and I hope you check out my other content as well. Like and subscribe, and I will catch you next time. Peace.